Well, I've tried to do this video 5 or 6 times already. Well, I just hit record and we'll try once again. It's a hard video to do because I don't want to offend anyone. And who cares what a 63-year-old thinks about cameras? I'm not a professional filmmaker. I've been dabbling with it since I was 12 years old. Worked, did my own photography in a darkroom and everything at a very early age. And I think, part of the reason I fool around with cameras is I wanted to do, well, first I wanted to write the great American novel, then I wanted to be a filmmaker, and then I got married, had kids, so I was like, well, I'll figure out the cameras, so I'm ready to do a film, maybe I could just do it myself with the equipment. And I've always found technology and science very fascinating. And this video is going to go over many digressions, and I apologize. But to some of you, hopefully, yes, it will add up for you. So when I was young, I see everything is changing. And I'm like, I want to get into this change. I want to do this thing, be part of this change. And I don't see how everything's connected. And now I see everything connected, but there's no real change. I mean, yeah, the change is in how it flows, but it's all, basically, if you add it all up, it adds up to the same thing. But anyway, it's hard to be motivated, when it's just nothing really changes. But things do change. Or the relative values. Should I do this video or not do this video? Why waste anybody's time? Why would you want to watch this? Why do I even want to do it? So if you look at the video right now I'm shooting on a Canon C100 Mark II. I have the ND at 2 stops. Now if you look at my hand at the sunlight here, the camera cannot deal with that. No camera can. Maybe the Alexis can come closest, but the truth is the silicon and the chemicals they dope it with just can't deal with that sort of difference in dynamic range. So when I was going for a walk with my daughter and grandchildren yesterday in the path, the sunlight would come through and it would totally blow out like whatever it hit, the arms, the shirts, whatever, of my grandchildren. I could shoot like this with just very limited neutral density and get sort of a balance, or I could shoot a lot of neutral density and then pull up the shadows, but the image would be very sort of like muddy. Or I could just shoot no neutral density and let everything blow out incredibly. And but the faces would have good skin tones and stuff like that. And this is a reality we face as filmmakers. And I did another video on how film didn't change in my lifetime. And this is the reality of filmmaking today. And yes, it does have something to do with what I'm talking about, which is where cameras are today if you want to use a camera. So I had a C100. So this all started, well, not all started, but I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. There's a website called EOS HD. It's still around. I forgot the guy's name. Anyway, it was a very interesting site. It had a forum. And we all talked about the Panasonic GH3 camera at the time, I think, and then the GH4 when they had log profiles coming out, and it shot 4K versus something like this. And of course, it was affordable. So in 2014 or 2012, when the C100 came out, 2014 when the C100 version 2. Now this is the original C100. When it was basically $8,000, and the high-end Panasonic cameras were like $2,000 or whatever in today's dollars. So it was like a 20% difference. And I'll get to that later. So anyway, we're talking on this forum about these cameras, and everybody's going about the bit rates and how it handles the codec this and the codec that. I mean, it's like the church of codecs, and there's still that church of codecs out there today. So, we're all getting excited talking about this stuff. And then one day this guy comments, he says, I use a C100 for my work and nobody's ever complained. And he said, oh, the bit rate is only like 28 megabits per second, which it is. I'm being shot right now. It's 28 megabits per second. When I shoot on the GH6 here, I'm shooting at 400 megabits per second. And when this hits YouTube, it's going to be streaming at 3 to 6 megabits per second. So even this, at what we all agreed on was like a pathetic 28 megabits per second, is still 5 times more than you can ultimately see it in. And even Netflix, I think at 4K is like 8 megabits per second. I've got to put that in perspective. This is overkill for that. For 400 megabits? Now, of course, I understand you use it for grading and all that kind of stuff, but ease of use in the video editor. But still, think about it. But the point this guy made, and again, it was an epiphany to me, he's like, it doesn't make a difference. He says all that matters is what the client sees. And they see 2 things. One, they see me with a professional camera on my tripod, right? And they see the image, and they love the image. So eventually one day, a few years later, I saw a C100 on Craigslist for something I could afford, and I bought it because I wanted to see if this guy's theory was correct, or what he said was correct. And it was, and it is. I mean, the 1080, now remember, this is 1080 scaled down from 4K. The sensor is 4K, but it's scaled down to HD, so you get full color fidelity when you demosaic. It's true then, and again, it's true today. So, and that's sort of been, but it's, that truth has been lost because everybody's been so excited. You know, everybody who gets into filmmaking, who's young generally, gets excited about, you know, getting a camera. So now in 2014, like I said, you couldn't afford an $8,000 camera. At least I couldn't. I couldn't justify it. You know, I wasn't working in the business. But fast forward to today, 2024, and Sony's come out with a GH7, which has autofocus, which, you know, is also phase and contrast detection. So hopefully it probably works well. But this GH6, that's only a few years old, right? This has worse autofocus than the first C100. This has better autofocus. But again, back in 2014, $8,000, that's what you get. You get good autofocus. So today, you can get, so then Canon 2017 came out with the C200. Again, this is a professional cinema camera. This is a camera you can use on corporate work, you can use for commercials, you can use for interviews. I'm missing something here, but anyway, you can use it for any professional thing. Nobody's ever going to say, if you bring a C100 or any of the cinema cameras to a job, like, oh, well, that's not, you know, a professional camera. But that's, again, that's not what it's about. It's about the image that comes out. It's about the final truth. The final truth. So anyway, so in 2017, the C200 came out, and it was like around $6,000. But today, you can get a C200 new for $3,500. And Panasonic came out with the GH7 at $2,400. But within a couple of weeks, it's gone down by almost 20%. Now they're like at $1,900 and something. I've seen them like new on eBay for like $1,800, like overstock or something. So the GH7 price is plummeting fast. And the reason it's doing, because it's, think about it, like you can get a 4K cinema camera, brand new for $3,500, or you're going to get a GH7. Why would you? And the thing you really have to understand, again, if you're shooting commercials, if you're even shooting a short film, if you're shooting interviews, you know, anything like that, time is the most valuable thing you have. And when I shoot my little pathetic stuff, I'm always making a mistake, always making mistakes. It's just so hard to keep all this stuff in your head. That's why Hollywood has all these people, the sound person, the lighting person, the focus puller, the whatever. It's not that they want to spend money. Hollywood doesn't want to spend money on these people. They just know that if you have one person doubling up on a job, right? If you have like the grip also doing the lighting, that they're going to make a mistake. And that means the 10, 20, 30, whatever you spent that day, all out the window. Because again, the truth is the final image. And if the final image is ruined, all the money you put into it, it doesn't make a difference what camera you had. It's all of a waste. So that's why in professional filmmaking or anything, you have multiple people. Again, one person could do it all. It's not that they couldn't, but they can't because they don't have the time. So on a camera like this, on a cinema camera, everything, your fingers are all spread out. And they're spread out. It's easy to change everything immediately. And so with this camera over here, like I can move the, not in the C100, but in the C100 Mark II, I can move the viewfinder up here and bring it down to my waist level. Again, I don't need to look at the buttons. I never need to go into the menu. I mean, only in the beginning to set things up, make the mic and whatever. But everything else that I need to set, I can set in the buttons very quickly. And they're big buttons, and I can read them very quickly. Again, no menu work. Just go in. But it's more than just the menu. It's just like I said, like the ergonomics, the feeling like when you're holding a cinema camera, and it's also optimized only to do video. This is a hybrid. It's both photo and video. And again, I'm not trying to say anything bad about this camera at all. Again, I have it, I use it. You know, I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just saying if you're only going to do video in a professional way or in a way where time is constrained and you're doing video, you get a camera that is designed to take the least amount of time to operate or change anything. And that's what you get with this. And not only is it with this stuff, it's with the audio. So you have XLR, means you're not going to have, you have balanced inputs, you're not going to have problems with interference on an unbalanced line, stuff like that, but you have all the connections here. So you have professional audio. You can run 2 different tracks, the safety 2 different gains, whatever. It's got mic, you know, it's got a little mic in here that you can use. So the audio, it's got professional audio, and professional audio needs space for the XLR connectors. Again, you know, you can get a add-on for this, but the add-on, you know, again, it's just janky. It's another thing that can potentially break. But even if it doesn't, this is just solid. It's just here. So you can take this handle off, of course. And then is the ND filters. So this has built-in ND filters. And it's hard to really appreciate them unless you do things somewhat professionally, you know, when you need to do an ND. Screwing on a filter or using the variable NDs with the quality is sort of not that great. It's just not doable. It's not worth it at all. Again, if you're going to pay, like, let's say, even for like a very low grade shoot, right? Let's say I'm just going to go out and do a corporate shoot, even just the lowest of corporate shoots, right? Is $5,000. So if I go out there $5,000 with my inexpensive camera, my hybrid, and I do everything myself and I screw it up, they've lost $5,000. Totally $5,000. So, you know. So what I'm trying to get at here is what's going on in the industry now is because you can, or I think in the world, as I said from the beginning, the technology is totally mature. No camera is going to solve this freaking problem of high dynamic range. And I'll go down that little rabbit hole for a bit. So 8-bit video, it's 8-bit each channel, RG, red, green, blue, 24-bit total. It can show 16 million colors. And we can basically discern 10 million colors. So it's plenty of bit depth to get all the colors we want, plus a little like headroom so we can move things around. And some of these manufacturers, especially Panasonic, have like pushed this thing about bitrate. And again, I was into an EOHDD 10 years ago, whatever, talking about the codecs and the bit rates and all that kind of stuff like that. So it doesn't make a difference if you have, the problem is that, okay, like I'm shooting this, right, you're seeing highlights, and you're probably saying to yourself, well, if you shoot RAW, you can recover them. And that's true, and that's why I think RAW is great. You know, so RAW definitely has benefits. Everybody would shoot with it all the time, you know, all things being equal, if it didn't require energy and all kinds of stuff like that. But short of that, there's another problem. This is the other problem that they don't talk about. All these camera reviewers talk about it, and it just blows my mind. Like they'll show like high dynamic range, and they'll show, you know, the colors from white to black, all these grays, right? It's 15 grays, we have 15, you know, stops with dynamic range. Yes and no, because we don't shoot in black and white, okay? And color, we're very susceptible to color when it's off, when it's like very noisy or grainy, or it's just off, right? Where we don't like it. We can accept it in film much more, but in black and white, I should say, but not in color. So in this image right now, yes, I can save it. I can take the sensor's readings here, which are in 14-bit internally, and I can pull them in, and I can give more detail on my arm. But the colors, there's no color information there. It's all very noisy. And it's the same thing in the shadows. If I want to pull out the shadow of my shirt right here, or down there, whatever, it's only, I can't pull it out that much because there's just not enough photons, or the sensor's just not reading enough, it's just mostly noise. So since there's noise in the shadows, and there's like no color information in the highlights, so it doesn't make a difference what the bit rate is. It's just not there to get, to pull the cameras. No camera can do it. That's why my favorite sayings: amateurs talk bodies, professionals talk glass, and photographers or filmmakers talk light. Light is everything. If you lit this correctly, better, and shot this on my phone, it would be a better image than this C100, C300, 500, 400, Lex. It wouldn't make a difference. A properly lit scene, because again, of the limitations of the silicon in the sensor, or these sensors, will be better than an Alexa in a really harsh lighting thing like this. And you know that because if you ever look at behind the scenes footage, when somebody shoots with their cell phone on like a movie set, and you look at it, it's like, whoa, that's amazing, right? It's not amazing because they have the iPhone latest, whatever. It's amazing because they're shooting a properly lit, a set that's lit for how the sensor responds. So again, the sensor can't do this right here, so they have to light it for a response. Now, this next thing is a little, I don't even know how much I believe it, controversial, whatever. But if you notice with webcams and smaller cam sensors, they blow out more quickly. So even though this is blowing out right now, it'll blow out even worse on this Micro Four Thirds sensor because it's just a smaller sensor. That's my belief. But maybe this is debatable. Leave a comment. So, but really what I wanted to say is that in these days, so you have a Panasonic GH7's come out. It's almost the same price as a new C200, or definitely a used C200. You have cameras from Sony, Canon, and Nikon that all have really good autofocus, much better than the Panasonics even have today. Panasonic's still going to have to do a lot of catch-up. I need to point out, like for instance, in Canon, they have pixels they set aside for autofocus. That's dual pixel. That's what it means. We have pixels for the image, and we have pixels that are used for focusing. They developed this technology early on. Like I said, even the early C100, it's just, it's amazing how well it works. So Panasonic has always been like, what they sort of do is they used to have like a sensor manufacturer, fab, and then they sold it. And I think they still buy their sensors from this now third-party sensor lab. But they take these technologies and they find ways to do things that others don't do and then market it. So what they did is they said, oh, well, again, we're going to come out with this cheap camera that's 4K, and so if you want to be a filmmaker, you get it because you get 4K and you can't afford it any other way. So, or then we're going to have like these log profiles. Well, we're going to give you log profiles that were used in professional cameras for very limited shooting situations, like this, like you'd use log in this. We have a very high dynamic range. But generally, you would never want to use it. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but you don't want to use it. So anyway, something that was like for professionals, like a few percent of the time useful, Panasonic came out with like, well, you want to use this all the time and you'll be a professional. That's the trick they pulled. To say, you want to be a professional cinematographer, we'll give you the tool, a log shooting gamma, like the professional, so you can be a professional. And then they're like, oh, look, we took this flat image and we put these colors and we changed these colors. Those flat images have they have almost no color information in them. Anyway, so it's just like a whole in the whole industry of all these people, I'm going to be a filmmaker because they have log. Like, log, no, it's just like a thing that a professional would use like very few times if they absolutely couldn't help it, if they couldn't control the lighting. And of course, they shoot raw if they're going to shoot something serious. So, you had that. And then Panasonic recently has come out with the 32-bit float, and that's a complete fraud. Go down that rabbit hole. But at least with the log shooting gammas, like I could see, like, yeah, if you like the look, you like the look. But nobody wants audio through a limiter. Again, a limiter is the thing you use if you can't help it. If you're an audio guy and you know what audio levels to expect or what physical voices you expect to hear on the microphone, you're going to set your preamp properly, you can position the mic properly, and that's what you're going to do, right? You're never going to want to put a limiter on it. And 32-bit float can't do it. I'll put a link in my description why it can't do it. But you know what they're doing is they're saying, oh, we have 32-bit float, so you don't need the gain knob, but they're just using a limiter. I won't be surprised if there's a class action lawsuit eventually, because anyway, another rabbit hole. So what else did I, in all these videos that I've wanted to talk about? So in some ways, it's the worst time for filmmaking, and in some ways it's the best time. It's the worst time in that, yeah, I love getting new cameras and playing with them and seeing what they could do. That's been a lot of fun for the past 10 years. It really has, you know. Even though I know it's like, I feel like a cretin, it's stupid. Well, I still enjoyed it. But now, what am I going to do? Like, there's nothing like, if I want, you know, I bought 2 C100s and a lens for $1,000. I could go do any corporate shoot with these. I could go do a small film, an interview, whatever. And I know it's 1080p, but I think any client would see the difference. So, you know, it's because it's a beautiful image. It was a beautiful image 12 years ago. It's still, it's 14 years ago. It's still a beautiful image today. I mean, I don't know. Take the most expensive camera, shoot 1080p, and tell me it's going to be any better than this, you know, whatever. To most people, could a normal person tell a difference? Of course, you know, you can get a better lens and stuff like that. Anyway, so yeah, there's no, you know, so now that there's no technology, right, getting better and better to get into, you just have to tell the story. And there are stories. And these are stories that are important to me. Like, why is our money going to bombs? You know, basically, we just destroyed, like, our bombs destroyed the homes of 1 million people, you know, across the world. You know where it is. Why do we let our bombs destroy the homes of 1 million people and bury children in rubble because they didn't get the little pamphlet saying it? You know, why is there a war, a 3-year war in Europe, right, with again, our bombs? You know, I don't buy into, like, you know, this nationality is bad, or this, you know, these people are bad, or, you know, like, you know who fights war? Poor young men. Poor young men who couldn't even care less about what, you know, the patriotism of their country, these ideals, this or that. All they know is they have a family to feed, they have financial problems, and they're offered a bunch of money, and whether it's now or it's 2,000 years ago in Rome, they're going to go take their chances on the battlefield. That's it. So why do we let that go on? Shouldn't we do videos about that? Shouldn't we tell stories about that? Or the homelessness that's been increasing in our country. Shouldn't we do stories about that too? Or the lack of jobs, right? Or why aren't kids wanting to have families? Why are there so many old people, like, you know, just basically hoarding space in nice neighborhoods? Kick them out. Put young people in. You could do a video about that, a film. So anyway, that's what I wanted to just do this video about. You know, the first videos, of course, I'm saying, like, the looming Panasonic, they're just not going to make it because of these realities. But I knew that ticked people off. And who knows what's going to happen. Maybe they'll come up with some new other idea that's interesting. And yeah, but, you know, I still want the GH7. I'd like to try it out, new autofocus. That might be the last fun of the cameras. And it shoots internal RAW, which would be nice. So yeah, anyway, that's my video about the GH7 C100, state of the world, technology, whatever. Where am I at now? I don't know. Does this say an hour? Maybe an hour. Anyway, if you got this far, well, thanks for watching.